Hello, this is Aaron from AaronOnAutos.com. Today we're in a 2015 Subaru WRX STi. This is Subaru's little race car, and this is an awesome little sports car. Doesn't get a whole lot better than this. This shaky cam interior review, I'm mostly going to look at the unique features inside this car rather than go over the usual. So just assume that if I don't show it to you, it's probably standard fare as far as the window controls and so forth. You'll notice on the steering wheel you have the usual Subaru kind of finger paddles. These control what's on that screen up there and sometimes that screen up there. And I will also point out that, like the Legacy that this is based on, the backup camera is in that screen up there, and it's a long ways away and very small, so it's next to useless outside of using it just to make sure you don't run into something. On the upside, this car is has very good visibility, so you really don't need a backup camera anyway. Alright, we're looking at the steering wheel right here, and I wanted to just point out it's flat here, you know, the racing flats they put on the bottom of wheels. Most of the time this is just for looks. In this case, it's actually useful because this is a very tight steering. The steering box in this is extremely tight, and the suspension is very sport tuned and tight, so you feel every pebble on the road. So even in everyday driving, you need to have this grip because the wheel does a lot of this when you are on all but the flattest of pavements, which is a good thing if you're looking for a sports car that actually handles like a sports car. Next up, let's look at the instrument cluster. I'll show you a couple things going on here. First off, you have the usual. You have your tachometer here, engine heat. This is the info display that changes. This down here generally does not change, with a couple of exceptions. I'll show you that. This is, of course, your speedometer, and then I have it set to show speed here. You can change that with those paddles on the steering wheel. So there you go. We're going to be looking at this specifically in a minute. This right here is the fuel gauge, of course. So most of your warning lights show up in this area, mostly up here and down there. And yeah, that's about it. This little box right here, I'm in neutral, so there is no gear. This shows you the gear you're in, and then that right there is your mode. You can change the engine mode from, right now it's an intelligent, which I believe they call SI drive. You can change it to sport or sport sharp. I'll show you that in a minute. And then this right here, this box is your center differential. So the differential for the all-wheel drive. Right now it's in auto mode. You can change that, and I'll show you how that works. So you can force more power up front, more power to the back wheels, whatever you want to do. Very cool, especially for a rally car, which is exactly what this is. Moving on really quickly, you see you have up here an info display. The things across the top with the clock and temperature and so forth, those do not change other than when you adjust them. But the mile per gallon in the center, and then whatever's in the middle there, right now it's on audio, that can all be changed according to your menu settings. Then you see the faux carbon fiber that lines. It shows up all over the cabin, and I'm going to show you the seats because they're awesome. This is the stereo, of course, and then this right here is what you use to change that, FYI. Dual climate controls, which is you know, it's an option, but there you go, it's good stuff. So then you have down here a cubby, you have a plug, the USB and so forth are in the storage box back here. You see the STi badging, it shows up all over this car. Here you have the shifter with the ubiquitous red top because it's a sports car. This standard, you know, 6 speeds, pull the ring up, go in reverse. Now here, this is your driving controls. Note the placement of the handbrake. Makes it very easy to get a hold of and use when you want to use it. I've done more than a few power turns, power slides and brake turns in this car over the week. So use this to set your settings. So when you push it in, you're in SI drive. Then you can go to Sport, and you hear the beep. It tells you just switched into Sport Sharp. I'll put it back in SI, and then I'll show you what that does on the screen up above you. This is your differential control. Push this for audio or auto. Push it again to turn it to manual, and then you use this to adjust up and down. So upwards, downwards changes where the power distribution is going. Very cool, really awesome. Now you'll notice the seat. Move my camera bag. This is the kind of suede-like Recaro here, and then this is the two-tone. And these are sport buckets, so they're very comfortable sport buckets. I'll point out they're not too constricting, even for somebody of my size. So you have these nice bolsters keeping you in the chair. It's very, very good to have, because you really need seats like this when you are spinning around and doing crazy stuff like a sports car. And then the glove box and so forth. And you'll notice the leather is carried, the suede and the stitching is carried over here. Very, very pretty. They did an excellent job on the interior here. And the back seat, because it's an Impreza, there is a back seat. And it's actually a useful back seat, and also a very useful trunk. So back to the sports stuff. All right. First, let's fiddle around with the differential. So I put it in manual mode. Now you'll see where the settings are. So I can move it up and down. See that? Now it's locked. And then like that. Very, very cool. I've mostly left it in auto mode because it does a very good job of moving itself around on its own. Subaru knows how to make an all-wheel drive car. Now, for this is your torque curve. Now you notice it's very low. It's kind of a power curve. It's not really a torque curve, but same difference. So, you notice it's very low right here. This is a economic setting. You still feel a lot of power, but you're not getting every ounce of it right off the bat when you push the pedal down. Basically what this is doing is when you adjust it, you're changing the fuel-air mixture in the engine a little bit. And when you do that, you change the RPM range where your power shows up. Not by a whole lot, but by enough that you will actually notice it. I noticed when I was driving steadily, I would just be driving down the road, holding my foot steady on the accelerator pedal, and then I would switch from this suddenly to Sport Sharp, and you would actually feel the car go whoa and move a little faster, go a little bit more, just because it changed where the power band is. So you have sport mode like this. I've used this when driving around town and stuff just because it feels fun, but you don't have too much power that you jump out of the stop sign, and scare the hell out of yourself, anything like that. This is a good setting. You don't have to goose the engine to get going out of first gear or in reverse and stuff. You could just steadily push it, and so there's no there's no lag feel. In intelligent mode, that's great for on the highway and stuff because you really don't need all that power, and you need the fuel economy. And if you noticed on the screen that was up there, up that way, I've been averaging about 22 miles a gallon. This is rated at 23, I believe, on the highway. So 22 with the way I've been driving it, which is like a 15-year-old with a brand new sports car. That's pretty good fuel economy. It's pretty amazing. So to go through the modes, here's your SI drive for, more or less everyday driving on the highway. Here is what I've been using for city mode, which is sport. None of these change the suspension at all. All you're changing is the engine, the power vector. And then on the last one, there's this one, which gives you immense amounts of acceleration. It's beautiful. And then just for reference, to let you know what happens in the what this car is capable of, the tachometer, you see where it tops out about 6,700 there. If you go past 6,700 into the, you can go about 6,800. Your light will come on at about 65, and then at about 6,800, your engine will suddenly drop power to save itself. So you'll lose about 1,000 RPMs in order to keep the engine from exploding, basically. So it's important that you pay attention and do your shifting right. But you want to be right up in that 6,000, 6,200 range before you grab another gear if you're trying to really push this car forward, if you're trying to gain all the speed you can. That will hold you inside the 4,500 to 6,000 range between gears, and that will that's your sweet spot most of the time for this car. Over here, here's the speedometer. So at 80 miles an hour in fourth gear, 1, 2, 3, 4. 80 miles an hour in fourth gear, you're pulling about 5,300 RPM. When you can go all the way up to about 100, right shy of 100 miles an hour, and before you redline in fourth gear. Shift up to fifth, it drops down to about 47, 4,600, somewhere in there, and then you have the rest of that band. At 120 is about where you're going to lose you're going to be towards the end of that fifth gear and have to jump up to sixth. Give or take. I'm not 100% sure because 120 is as fast as I've taken the car. I could feel by driving it that fast that it had a lot more to give me. So this is a very, very fast car. As a point of reference, I merged onto the freeway behind an SUV. She was going about 60 miles an hour. I was in fourth gear, and I just moved up to fourth gear, and as soon as we were on the freeway and I could grab the next lane, I jumped over into it and punched it, and before I passed her, I was at 100 miles an hour. That is amazing amounts of acceleration. I had no idea I was going that fast until I looked down to see where my RPMs were, and that's when I realized how fast I was going. This is a little speed demon. This car loves it, and it also loves the rally, loves the dirt. I've run this all over the dirt roads around here, and had a great time. This car never once felt like it was going to slip or slide or go off the road. It was always sure-footed. Beautiful Subaru job on the all-wheel drive there. Subaru really knows how to do that. So that's about it. I think I covered it. So for Aaron on Autos.com, this has been Aaron talking about the 2015 Subaru WRX STi. Talk to you again soon.